flyers in the 5 western states and has never run for a political office. This is an award-winning introduction. This morning, however, he is not telling a tall tale. Today, every word that he speaks will be the truth. There is no one who can refute the claims of these experiences because no one remains alive, say otherwise. He will be speaking from the Professional Speaker Manual, Project 2, Speaking to Entertain. The objectives will be to entertain the audience through the use of humor drawn from personal experience or from other personalized material. Deliver the speech in a way that makes the humor effective to establish personal rapport with the audience. Timing will be 15 to 20 minutes. 15 minutes will show the green light, 19 minutes the amber, and 20 the red. Here is David Bullock imparting a true visage of the older man's recollection of a much earlier life, telling Davey, Little Mine Camp Boy. Please welcome David.
When I was 4 years old, my life changed forever. I don't know if you remember what your life was like when you were 4 years old, but I most certainly do. I was kind of a mischievous little boy. My mom took to putting me in a red shirt so she could more easily keep track of me when I wandered throughout the neighborhood, into the swamps in the backyard. But one day, she caught me looking up into this huge tree in our front yard. This tree was so big, it went all the way from the ground clear on up into the sky. And I was going to climb that tree. It was then that my mother saw me eyeing that tree, and she said, "Davey, I don't want you climbing that tree. Why, you could fall and break your bum." Well, after she went in the house to do some ironing, I walked over to the curb where there were little tiny pebbles. I gathered up several of those pebbles and I put them in my pocket, and I was doing this because I was going to climb up onto a branch in that tree that hung out over the sidewalk. I was going to wait patiently for somebody to come walking down the sidewalk, and then I was going to drop a pebble on top of their head. I knew that they would be afraid to reach up and feel for fear that a bird had had its way with them. So I was going to have so much fun. I walked over to the tree. The bark was so thick and gnarly, I could stick my fingers right into it. My little shoes would go right into the bark, and I practically walked up that tree. Why, I remembered what Billy Christiansen, my best friend, said about climbing. "If you ever go climbing, don't ever look down." There I am, climbing up that tree, and I'm wondering why. Why shouldn't I? I bet I fell at least that far. Well, I got right back on that tree, and I climbed up, and I was just about ready to climb off onto the branch that hung out over the sidewalk when my mother came out of the house, and she was looking for me. "Davey, what are you doing up in that tree? You get down out of that tree right this instant." Ooh, I was mad. I was so mad, not because I didn't want to obey my mother. I was mad because I just learned how to climb a tree, and I didn't know how to get down. I was so mad, I remembered a word that my dad said when he would get mad. It was a special word. And so I said that word, and my mother fainted right on the porch. Well, I'd seen my mother faint in the past, and I knew that it was something serious, and so the only way I knew how to get out of that tree was to jump. I ran over to my mom screaming, "Mommy, Mommy, Mommy!" Well, my dad heard that, and he came out on the porch. He saw his wife laying there. He gets down on his hands and knees. He swoops her up in his arms, and he starts fanning her face with his hands, going, oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh, what can the matter be? Well, I knew that song, so I started singing it. Davey, you hush up. Your mother has fainted, and we don't know why. Well, it was at that point my mother woke up, and she stuck her finger in his nose. Well, not in his nose, but on his nose, giving him a look that would melt frozen butter. And she says, you are the reason my sweet, loving, innocent little boy says naughty words, and you must be punished. Well, I'm sorry, dear. I didn't know I was teaching the little tyke to say naughty words. What's my punishment going to be? You are going to take Davey to work with you. Yes. Yes. My dad was a hard rock miner. He worked up in the mountains where there's lions and bears and dinosaurs. I couldn't wait to go up in the mountains with my father. Well, I ran out to the Jeep, jumped on the front seat, and started bouncing up and down, waiting for him to get the keys to come out, and I broke a spring in his seat, and the spring came through the seat right where his bottom would be sitting. He was not in a good mood by the time we got to the mine. He pulled off the road, drove up the switchback dirt road, and he pulls up in front of this tiny little shack, stops the Jeep, and from out of that shack came the biggest woman I have ever seen in my life. She was so big, it took her 3 steps to get through the door. She stepped 1 foot right into the doorway, boop, wedged herself in the doorway with the 2nd step, and then she blow all of her air out and go and pop out of that door. Well, she came down those stairs, and when she came down the stairs, I thought the wood was going to snap. It just bended and bended, and she came right over to the Jeep, and she looked at me with a smile on her face that would scare a 4-year-old boy to death. She didn't have any teeth. Oh, and her hair was so thin, it stood straight up on top of her head, and I could see her skull. It's the first time I've ever seen a woman's skull before. It was so scary. And then she looked at me and she says, well, who do we have here? And my dad, he looks at me and he goes, well, this is my son, Davey. Well, Davey, I like, Daddy, and I grabbed a hold. She scares me, Daddy. And Daddy goes, oh, Davey, don't you worry about her. Well, it was then that I saw the skinniest man in the world walking down those stairs. He was so skinny, his legs were shaking. He hardly had enough muscles to hold himself up, and I was sure that she'd been eating his portion of their supper. Well, he comes over and he had 1 tooth, and it was black, and it was hanging right from his front of his mouth, and it was going ee. I was sure it was going to fall out. Well, Esther, when she closed her mouth finally, she put her lower lip over her right nostril. Because she didn't have any teeth, her jaw came clear on up to her nose. I was so scared. But she was so nice. She treated me like I was a special little boy. And she said, Davey, do you like to go hunting? Oh, I love to go hunting, Esther. What do you hunt for, Davey? Oh, Esther, I hunt for butterflies and grasshoppers and mosquitoes too, see? Well, you're a good hunter, Davey. Have you ever hunted for dinosaurs Oh, no, Esther, I don't hunt for dinosaurs because dinosaurs are big and they'll break your bum. Well, Davey, there's little dinosaurs up here. And there's some that have long tails and short little legs and they run real fast. And there's others that have bumpy lumps all over their body. And they have short tails and they don't run as fast as the others. And then there's others that don't have any legs at all. And if you see one that doesn't have any legs, that's called a snake. And if it rattles at you, that means it's a rattlesnake. And if it rattles at you, it means it's mad at you and it could bite you and you could die. So don't play with those snakes with no legs. Oh no, Esther, I heard about rattlesnakes. And so I went hunting for little baby dinosaurs. Mr. Dinosaur! There's one! I got him, Esther! I got him, Esther! Uh-oh. Esther, I got him all over me! And Esther, she came and she taught me how to hunt for little dinosaurs. She says you take a salt shaker and you sprinkle salt on their tails. And then you grab them by the tail and they can't get away. And so I found another little baby dinosaur. I sprinkled salt on its tail. It only ran a little bit. I grabbed its tail. I pulled on its tail. I pulled on its tail. And its tail pulled off with my fingers. And there it was going squiggly wiggly, squiggly wiggly. And I ran back to the cabin. I was so upset. Well, next thing I did is I thought I'd take a walk around, find out what the camp was like. I was walking up this road, and there was the biggest snake I ever saw. Its head went in the brush on this side of the road, its tail in the brush on that side of the road, or was it its head on that side of the road and its tail on that side of the road? Oh, I was afraid to jump over the snake for fear that it would eat me. But that was the only way I could get down to the cabin. And so I practiced, and I practiced, and then I ran and I jumped over that snake and I ran all the way down to Esther's cabin, running in the cabin and slammed the door, and Esther goes, "What's the matter, Davey?" I said, "Esther, there's the biggest, longest, ugliest snake in the world up there, and it was going to eat me, Esther. It was going to eat me." She says, "Well, we can't have any snakes eating our little boys, can we?" She grabs up the axe, she pops out that door, walks up the road. Esther needs glasses in the worst way, but she could see that snake. She put that axe up, and she chopped that snake right in two, and it went Esther didn't kill a snake that day. She cut the farmer's water line in half. So the miners, they had to knock off, go down the city, buy tools and stuff to fix the water line, and Esther and I were in big trouble. And so I went and took a nap. And after a little while, I woke up, I was hearing this and I looked at Esther, and she was mixing something in a bowl. And the ladle was going, "Esther, what you doing?" And Esther said, "Well, Davey, I'm making pancakes. The miners just love eating pancakes." "Oh, I love pancakes too, Esther. I really love pancakes. Can I have some too?" She says, "Oh, of course, Davey, of course." Well, she was talking to me, and that's when I realized why she kept her lower lip over her right nostril. You see, Esther had allergies, and when she was talking to me, her nose began to dripping, and it would leak and drip off of her chin into the pancake batter. Ew! I ran out of the cabin. I slammed the door behind me. I ran up to my dad and, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy," and he's there with some of his miners, and he's going, "Davey, I'm having a meeting with my men. Go away, not now." "But Daddy, Esther's knows." "So Davey, not now. Go away." Ooh, that made me mad. I was so mad I picked up a great big rock, and I was going to throw it at that rooster that chased me around, pecking me on the bottom. And I went, "Mr. Rooster, I'm mad, Mr. Rooster. Where are you, Mr. Rooster?" And I walked around the chicken coop, and that's when I saw this huge deer. It had antlers sticking out everywhere on its head, and it was standing there eating the chicken feed. And then it turned and it looked at me, and it just went, "Oh, little boy, go away. I'm enjoying the chicken feed. Don't bother me." "Well, I'm mad, Mr. Deer. You better stop eating the chicken feed, or I'll throw this rock at you and hit you." "Oh, go away, little boy. I just love chicken feed." So I took that rock and I threw it as hard as I could, and it hit that deer right in the behind. That deer jumped straight up in the air, turned around 2 times, landed facing me, dropped his head down, and started pawing at the earth with his front hooves. I watched Popeye cartoons. I knew what that meant. So I turned around and I ran as fast as I could into the house. And Esther, there's a great big deer out there, and it's going to eat me, Esther. It's going to stick me and eat me. "Oh, well, we can't have any deer out there that's eating little boys, can we?" And she grabs up the rifle from the corner. She pops out of that door. Next thing, I hear this loud boom. Scared me so bad, I jumped in bed, covered up my head, and I went back to sleep. Well, a little while later, I woke up, and I looked around, and outside there was Esther and Emmett, her husband, and my dad, and Eddie Sutton, and they were all sitting around the table eating pancakes. Well, I walked out, and I see this fur tacked up to the chicken coop. And I went, "Esther, what's that?" She says, "Oh, Davey, did you know that when you threw that rock at that deer, you plumb scared that deer right out of its hide?" And then Emmett goes, "Yeah, and he runned off and left his antlers too. You see him there?" And there they were. I felt like the hero of the day. And then my dad, always a complimentary man, he said, "Esther, I don't know what it is about these here pancakes, but these are the sweetest, most delicious pancakes I have ever eaten. What is your secret?" I know what Esther's secret is. And they all looked at me, and Esther says, "What is my secret, Davey?" Esther's nose was leaking in the pancake batter. You never saw a mouse quit chewing so fast in your life. There were mouths going up, there were mouths coming down, and some stuck right in the middle. And then you heard voices coming out of mouths that weren't moving, like, "Well, I guess I better go back to work now. Yeah, I'll go to the little boys' room." And the men got up and they wandered away from the table, and then you could hear the funniest noises, like, well, my dad came to me as Esther was running back towards the cabin crying. And he says, "Davey, you've hurt Esther's feelings. You need to go apologize to her and tell her you're sorry that you gave away her secret recipe." Well, so I walked up to Esther. I looked up at her and I asked her, "I'm sorry I gave away your secret recipe." And she looked down at me kind of mad, and then her face just melted into such sweetness. She picked me up and she held me close and she hugged me so tightly the stars began coming out and whirling around. And when she quit hugging me, She says, "Oh, Davey, the miners aren't going to ever eat my pancakes again. I guess from now on, we're just going to have to eat waffles." And she had the sweetest, most delicious waffles I have ever eaten.